Welcome to part 2 of our presentation. In part 1, we discussed the history of Bitcoin. We talked about the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator.
We saw how governments, including the US, continue to cause inflation by creating enormous amounts of new currency, all to cover irresponsible spending by politicians. We heard a quote by highly esteemed economist, Milton Friedman, who said that a digital cash system would soon be developed which would reduce the role of government. We were introduced to concepts such as private keys, public keys, digital wallets, the hexadecimal encryption system, the impenetrable encryption protocols used to protect Bitcoin from hackers, how exchanges are not the safest place to store Bitcoin, how Bitcoin transactions are actually traceable and therefore not a natural domain for criminals any more than the US dollar, how being careless with your keys can result in forever lost Bitcoin. How Bitcoin has never been hacked, although some exchanges have been. How cold, offline, wallets are the ideal method of storage, if, and only if, you protect the keys and adopt a succession plan in case of your personal demise. We only mentioned in passing how the blockchain is the network that make Bitcoin work, how it is a decentralized and worldwide open ledger, how there is not central authority to manipulate the blockchain for its own advantage. We learned that if you don't own your keys, you don't own your Bitcoin. The following presentation is for educational purposes only. It is not investment advice, we are not licensed investment advisors. All questions and comments are warmly welcomed. Lonnie G. Hardy, CPA, Shreveport, Louisiana.
As promised, we are now going to dive into a deep understanding of the blockchain. It is, without a doubt, the most fascinating aspect of Bitcoin, yet, it is the very least understood, and underappreciated. Many people describe it as exquisite, beautiful, nearly perfect, like a music composed by Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, or Rachmaninoff.
When someone buys, or sells, or transfers Bitcoin, the transaction is sent to special computers, all over the world, known as nodes. Nodes will then verify the transaction, according to the Bitcoin protocol, making sure it is valid and legitimate. Once verified, the transactions will sit inside a kind of waiting room full of unconfirmed transactions. These waiting rooms are called mempools, which is short for memory pool. We will further discuss nodes later in this presentation.
To further illustrate the journey of transactions through the system, we will look at a visualization of the transactions represented as cute little cartoon people. What we are about to see is the memory pool, which is a gathering place of transactions after the nodes have verified them. Then, we will see them board buses for transportation to the actual blocks on the blockchain. There, the miners will take over. Note that the sizes of the people represents the sizes of the transactions. You should know that the transactions that are willing to pay the highest fees get to board first. Well, apparently, money talks here too. Now, let's enjoy the video.
There are 5 basic characteristics of the Bitcoin blockchain that are important for its integrity. 1. It is a decentralized network. This means that there is no central person or power that can dictate to it. This is one of the most distinguishing aspects of Bitcoin. There are many, so-called, altcoins, that do not possess this quality. Which means that like fiat money, a few people can change the rules at any time. 2. The blockchain is a transparent, distributed, ledger. Imagine having thousands of auditors verify every transaction you execute. This is the work of the nodes. 3. The Bitcoin blockchain is a system based on consensus. Before any changes can be made to the rules, there must be a consensus of highly dispersed, self-interested nodes. This is comparable to changing the Constitution of the United States. Very difficult to make changes on a whim. 4. Once a block on the chain is completed, it cannot be changed. It is immutable. Later, you will see how each block becomes a locked cell. And, even if someone were able to change a completed cell, every cell after it would be disrupted as well. What a beautiful system. 5. The unhackable security of the blockchain is unquestionable. Again, the Bitcoin blockchain has never been compromised. The difficulty of hacking it is beyond our human comprehension. Yes, brokers have been hacked. But, the Bitcoin blockchain, never. The very first block is called the Genesis block. Every block, except the Genesis block, carries a kind of DNA from the block before it, just like a child would from its parent. Therefore, it is impossible to alter a block without invalidating all subsequent blocks along the chain. Each block is built by filling it with enough data to digest, or process, in about 10 minutes on average. Thus, approximately 144 blocks are created each day. As of the last day of September, 2021, approximately 703,000 blocks had been mined.
So, let's play pathologist and open up a block and see what is inside. First, we see that each block is serially numbered. Then, we find what is called the header. The header is comprised of the hash of data from the preceding block. This hash data is what links each block to the block before it. The timestamp, and the nonce. Next we find the Merkle root. The Merkle root looks like an upside-down tree with the root on top. The detailed transactions are below, making up the branches of the so-called Merkle tree. So these blocks are what the miners receive in order for them to perform their work. After the miners finish their work, they will leave a hash of each block which will serve as a kind of connective tissue to the succeeding block.
So, what are miners? Where are they? What do they do? How do they get paid for their work? Didn't China close them down? We answer all these questions plus a lot more.
Let's first understand that miners are not people. Miners are high-speed computers running a special software. A miner's job is to perform what is called proof of work. Proof of work is a brilliant idea developed by the designer. He was smart enough to realize that he needed to make mining new coins very expensive and very difficult. Sort of like gold mining. Otherwise, too many people would be producing too many coins too fast. This would become like printing money. So he designed a sort of puzzle that is very difficult to solve. This proof of work puzzle is very similar to a game we have all played. Let's say I tell you that I am thinking of a number between 1 and 10. We will call this secret number the target. And I will reward one of you if you can guess this target. The guess that is closest to the target wins. But the winning guess must be equal to or less than the target. Any guesses above the number are disqualified. Also, there can be no ties. Only the first winning guess will be rewarded.
As you can see, mining operations were highly concentrated in China. That is, until around June of 2021, when the CCP shut them all down. Shortly thereafter, the communists even went so far as to ban ownership of all digital currency. Well, of course, except for the new digital yuan. As we know, totalitarian regimes always want to control their citizens. They know that to control people, you need to know where they get their money, and where they spend it. But, here is the good news. China's ban on mining has done no permanent damage to the blockchain. Immediately after the ban was imposed this past summer, the total worldwide hashes per second did drop. But now, fall of 2021, the total world hash rates are at an all-time high. On October 2nd, the Bitcoin hash rate spiked to over 177 quintillion hashes per second. The old adage is, success is always the best form of revenge. As was just said, the communist leaders of China have banned mining operations in China and even the ownership of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. China's ban is seen as a major opportunity for free countries across the world. States, such as Texas and Florida, are now welcoming miners with open arms to relocate in their states. The state of Louisiana is rated the most economical state in the Union in which to mine. A recent report said that the cost of power to mine 1 Bitcoin in Louisiana is under $3,400. In April 2021, the Louisiana House of Representatives approved a proposal praising Bitcoin for being the first trillion-dollar decentralized currency and urging the state and local governments to accept digital currencies and blockchain technologies. It goes on to say that BTC is now a critical instrument for firms and people to secure themselves against fiat inflation and that it could eventually replace gold as the preeminent store of wealth.
In our example game, there were a total of 10 possible answers. But on the Bitcoin blockchain, the count of possible answers is the number 115 followed by 25 digits. Obviously, given the high computing demands required to find the target number, special hardware is needed. Miners use hardware known as Application-Specific Integrated Circuit, ASIC for short. The chips in these mining computers are specifically designed for mining. Prices for such equipment can average around $12,000 to $15,000 or more. However, the problem is, successful mining operations use hundreds and even thousands of them.
As you can see, mining requires heavy use of computer processors. These machines are competing with other miners to solve for the target. They are high-performance processors and consume significant electricity. So much so, that the cost of power is the major component of mining operations. This power consumption has attracted criticism from some politicians and activists, arguing that miners are bad for the environment. However, many mining operations are now locating in areas where energy resources are stranded and not accessible to normal users. There are also valid arguments that maintain that other forms of money are highly inefficient in the use of energy. Gold, for instance, requires huge amounts of energy and also does damage to the surrounding property. Another example is the energy required to support the printing, distribution, and governance of the United States dollar. In many ways, printed, paper money as well as other forms of fiat money have already outlived their usefulness. This concludes the second video of our series on the crypto revolution. Future videos will dive deep into the details of how a hash function works. You will witness precisely how miners process a block. You'll see how they perform trillions of calculations, called hashing, and upon finding the target first, are awarded 6.25 new Bitcoin, together worth $300,000. Stay tuned for this amazing story. Please contact us with any questions or comments. We are also available to personally talk before groups of 10 or more on this vital topic. Thank you.